This is Jenny Bell from Clarington, Ohio, and I'm listening to Barbecue Central.
Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 2 feet or wiener.
But listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. Barbecue Central shows right here, taking you all the way until 11 o'clock Eastern, or maybe even a little over if you're lucky. We cover all the most important items in the live fire world today. Also, later in the week. Possibly into next week and later in the month. Still to come on the show this evening, David Gafford from the Barbecue Lab makes his debut on this show. And second-time guest and fellow Clevelander Darren Carter from Carter's Barbecue will join us to close out the show. Barbecue Central show is coming to you live and direct from
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
Of course, we say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platform partners. You can go to facebook.com/BBQ Central Show to watch, or the twitter.com/BBQ Central Show to watch, or you can watch on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show, where we have a new YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody. Have you bought any of Doug Scheiding's rubs yet? And 84% of you are saying no. In the grand scheme of things, maybe Doug's a little put off, but 16% have bought your rubs, Doug. That's 16% more folks than maybe haven't, or because you show up on this show regularly, 16% of people want to support you. And don't look at it as 84% of people not wanting to support you. I wouldn't do that. I would say, no. There's a solid almost 20% of the YouTube voting public that supports me by buying at least one bottle of my rub. I would say look at it that way and keep that chin up, kiddo. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less this coming Friday, episode 346, bringing you back to August 16th of 2011, featuring interview with the creator of the Butcher Barbecue line of rubs and sauces and injections and marinades, our pal Dave Bosca. At this point in time, I had Dave on to talk about an event he took part in along with 9 other of the best barbecue competition teams at the time that was benefiting a family in need in the Kansas City, Missouri area. They were also on Extreme Home Makeover, if you remember that show, very popular back in 2011. Dave was talking about how much money they had raised, what work they were doing for the event. So 2 things here. I don't recall this ever happening, and I'm sure this was some kind of majorly promoted event, both from a KCBS side of things and a hey, barbecues on television side of things, especially on this big hit show, Extreme Home Makeover. So I don't even recall that happening. Not a surprise, right? Because I don't recall a lot of major things happening. The more I find out about what John is digging up here in the Barbecue Central show's archives. So I do thank John for finding it and bringing it back to the forefront. Second, to a degree, I think this speaks volumes to where the state of the Kansas City Barbecue Society is right now, which is obviously nowhere. It's not on any radar. It's not being leveraged for popularity like it had in years past. It's a literal nothing as it sits here in 2024, especially when you compare it to 2011 or 2010 or 2009. No buzz. There's no one outside of the organization talking about it. There is zero happening, which is not good, which is not the way I was hoping it was going to go. But it doesn't look great. However, a great segment with our pal Dave Bosca, so you want to look for that on Friday. You need to subscribe to the podcast feed in order to hear the best of shows. You can do that by visiting the website, thebbqcentralshow.com/subscribe. Don't forget, if you want to hear a guest or segment again that you feel has been lost in the archives, email John and let him know what you would like to hear. That's JON at thebbqcentralshow.com. Diane Me is asking, what is Doug's favorite or best rub? I don't see Doug in the chat room here, Diane, but for me, it's the all-purpose rub for me. I love it. Haven't tried the brisket one yet. That's a little specialized, and we don't cook a lot of briskets in this house. I've also used the Doug's Finishing Dust, I believe it's called. That was good in an emergency replacement of Sterling Big Papa Ball's Happy Ending finishing rub that I usually use on my racks of ribs and pulled pork. So I would say the all-purpose number 1, Doug's Dust number 2, and then brisket rub to be determined. The famous Dave's All-Star Barbecue Series rolled into where? Minnetonka, Minnesota this past weekend, if you can believe it. Winning the whole thing, the Great Pig in the Sky Barbecue, taking reserve Big Racks Barbecue, both the grand champion and reserve grand champion for this event have earned spots in the 2024 World Food Championships in the barbecue division that takes place in November in the great city of Indianapolis, Indiana. The next famous Dave's All-Star Barbecue Series event is this coming Saturday, August 17th in Sioux City, Iowa. By the way, as it shows on the website, still 2 spots open. So if you've been looking to try your hand at this famous Dave's All-Star Barbecue Series, there are currently 2 spots open in Sioux City, Iowa this coming Saturday. And then there's one more left before the series closes up shop for 2024. That will be held in Columbia, Maryland, and still 1 spot showing open for that August 24th event as well. You can find out past results as well as check out the remaining schedule of future events, which is only this coming weekend and the following weekend by visiting worldfoodchampionships.com/allstars. And before we get to Dave from the Barbecue Lab, I want to show you a picture that I have here. Coming in for only mere hours, a quick overnight because he was on a motorcycle tour of this part of the country. Somebody that you wouldn't know if you saw him, but here they are. Of course, that's me on the right. But on the left, now, as my youngest daughter said, this guy looked so much like Pops, I couldn't believe it, which is my dad. I said, yeah, look like Pops, talks like Pop's brother, Uncle Tom, or has the same kind of voice and cadence. This, folks, if you can believe it, and there was a whole other agenda that I had planned with this guy, but time was not on my side for a number of reasons. But this guy on the left is the one and only guy you have heard me say, the person responsible for getting me into this in the first place, my cousin Glenn Rempe, right there with the Fuel and Fuddle t-shirt. On a motorcycle tour, was coming through Cleveland via Elmira, New York, which makes wild sense. Of course, you're passing through Cleveland. And he was able to stop in for a quick dinner on Sunday night, overnighted, and then I think it's like the first time he's been into Cleveland. He was in Columbus a lot for work, but I don't think he's been up to Cleveland, not in any recent time, for sure, maybe if ever. And what do I never do? Go to the Rock Hall. Glenn was in town for 18 seconds, and he went to the Rock Hall. Good for you, Glenn. Has his visit inspired me to change my ways? No. Of course not. He didn't call me and go, It's life-changing shit. So until somebody calls and tells me that, which nobody has, and usually it's like, how's the rock call? That's not inspiring to me, even though it's 10 minutes from my house. And it's been there for however long it's been erected. I don't know. 8 years, 28 years. Never been, and probably won't ever go. Because it's, I gotta have better than that. I demand excellence, for crying out loud. All right, David Gafford is ready to go from the Barbecue Lab. Before we get to him, I'll talk to you quickly about Franklin Barbecue Pits. What you have with the Franklin Pit is a deeply thought out and refined version of the old propane-style cookers that Aaron built for Franklin Barbecue. Stylistically, it reflects the kind of bare-bones industrial handmade aesthetic that he loves, as in the patina and the way the build allows you to see the welds and the craftsmanship. The Franklin Pit is primarily made of quarter-inch thick American-made steel. That, in a word, is strong. Anything that sees heat is engineered to be incredibly solid and should last a century or more, 100 years or more if cared for properly. The thickness of that steel guarantees professional-grade heat retention, which is a critical component to making great barbecue. Every Franklin Pit unique unto itself, to include their own natural markings and its own badged number. Franklin Pits can be found at fine barbecue specialty stores in select regions of the country. If you, the listener, are an owner of such a store and you wish to become a certified Franklin dealer, please visit franklinbbqpits.com and fill out a dealer form. Or if you're a listener of the show and you want to own a Franklin Pit, but you don't live close to a certified dealer, you can also visit franklinbbqpits.com and purchase a pit. Franklin Pits will ship a Franklin Pit right to your driveway. So either way, you own a store, you want to become a dealer, or you're not near a store and you want to become an owner of a pit, you go to the same website and accomplish whichever task you're looking for. franklinbbqpits.com. The Barbecue Lab is next. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooker on the planet. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a professional. It's a cooker you want to add to the arsenal regardless. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. My guest in the second hour tonight, some of the most comprehensive barbecue and grilling reviews that can be found across the interwebs. If you are more interested in cooking techniques, he has those too. Tonight he makes his debut right here on the Barbecue Central Show, and we'll learn how this whole thing got started and where he hopes to take it over the next few years. We welcome in the creator of the Barbecue Lab, David Gafford, joining me here on the show. Hey, Dave. Appreciate you joining me here. And we have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody before we learn all about the Barbecue Lab, which is this. Have you purchased a bottle of Doug Scheiding Rogue Cookers barbecue rub yet? Yes or no?
No, not yet. But now I know what to look out for.
82% of the YouTube voting public and David are saying no, they have not ordered a bottle of Doug's rubs yet, but we'll see how that tracks through the rest of the evening here. Before we launch into the lab stuff, David, a little personal and professional background on you.
Yeah, I started out the first 15 years of my career, and I was a church music director. I play like 6 instruments. I've got multiple vocal degrees, so I'm a musician. And so I'm a musician who used to lead giant teams of people. I'd have 150 or more volunteers, and we would get together, multiple times a year. And we would get together almost always at our house. And whenever we would get together with their families, it'd be lots of people. And I was cooking on a 3-burner charbroil grill. And it would take me 4 hours to get burgers and dogs done for that many people. So that's kind of what launched us into this. Was we started out really small and undersized, but it grew into something fun.
You didn't know this was going to happen because I didn't know you were a church singer. Acapella Ave Maria. David, the floor is yours.
Ave Maria. Oh, man. Let's see. I know what. Ave Maria, that part of this. Let's see. I've been retired for a few years. Let's see if I can break this out. Ooh. Ave Maria.
Yeah! Look at this guy. Right on. You know how many people would tell me to go piss up a rope, asking them to sing on cue like that? Good for you. All right, so live fire exposure, you're cooking on that that charbroil 3-burner gas grill, and you realize not really efficient. But how does one bridge that experience into, I guess, what would eventually become the barbecue lab?
You know, I didn't grow up in a traditional barbecue family. I grew up in a family that we had, 10 or 12 different meals that mom would make, and then we would generally let her make those. We didn't really participate much, but dad would grill occasionally on the gas grill. But I grew up loving places like Famous Dave's, eating out with barbecue, and I wanted to learn how to make that myself. And learning how to make that myself was a lot of trial and error. Now, the first couple pits that we bought, they were not great. And you could call it user error. You could call it the learning curve. But those first few pits that we bought, we did not make great barbecue. And I really felt like there needed to be someone who was reviewing barbecue gear who could kind of give me a better idea of how I could use this thing and how I could work this thing to be able to get what I really wanted to get out of this pit, which was great ribs, great brisket, great pork butts. And it just wasn't happening for me. And so my wife looked at me and said, you know what? You're a nerd. Maybe you should do it. And that's kind of how we started.
What year was that?
That was back in 2018.
So in 2018, YouTube is around. I think Malcolm Reed is still probably the biggest name current day, but even back then, he was probably even more prolific than he is now because there's a lot of Me Too's out there. Was there a dearth of knowledge that you were looking for specifically, or was it just not being done in a style that you could relate to? And so your wife, using those encouraging phrases like "you're a nerd," inspire you to develop the barbecue lab on your own?
I mean, like most of the YouTube watching public, I've watched so many Malcolm Reed videos, and I watched a lot of those videos recognizing that I didn't have access to the same gear that he had access to. He'd have 6 to 8 cookers back on the back patio, a lot of different offsets that were, $3,000 to $7,000 offsets, and he'd have the charcoal barrel smokers that I didn't have anything like that. And I was just trying to figure out on my little box Masterbuilt gas, propane, and charcoal vertical smoker, how can I make the same recipes he was? And what I found out is that no one's really cooking on that on YouTube, and I wasn't learning a lot of how to do that. And so I needed to vary up my game a little bit. But what I wanted to do was make grilling accessible to people that only knew the gas grill, the charbroil 3-burner like I grew up on. I wanted to actually expand my knowledge and bring people along for the ride. And the barbecue lab has just kind of grown out of that experience.
So was it cooking techniques, recipes, things like this first, and then the reviews subsequently came?
It really started out with the reviews first because I really wanted to try a lot of different grills. And so here was our strategy when we first started. I went onto Facebook Marketplace and I looked at any grill I could find that was a current iteration of a model being offered by a manufacturer. If I could get that thing for half price, I would bring it in and it'd be used, but I mean, all grills are used by the time we're done reviewing them.
Yeah.
So I would review the grill and I would turn back on Marketplace and I would sell that thing for the exact same price at a net zero cost for us. And then I'd have a review. And so I did that for the first, I'll be at least 8 or 10 grills that I did on the channel, or smokers, all through Facebook Marketplace, finding ones that were gently used and put those reviews together and put them on the channel. But that was what came first.
So as the YouTube channel starts to roll out, you're getting these grills in, you're doing your reviews and building content. How is it being consumed by subscribers? Is it a pretty quick grab and you're multiplying quickly, or is it a bit more of a slow burn?
I mean, it grew slowly for the first few years, but what I would find is that there was a lot of great conversation that really happened around each of these cookers. It would be, I either have this cooker and here's the problems I'm having with it, or I've always wanted to buy this cooker and here's the things that I have a question about before I pull the trigger. And that really helped shape who we became, because it started that conversation around each of those pits. And I had some experience with it. Granted, I only owned it for, 2 or 3 weeks, buy it, review it, turn it around, sell it again. But I still had more experience than most people who'd never laid hands on it. And I was able to give them some insight and then turn them into buyers. And that's where we kind of went, all right, well, this is maybe where we could go with this thing. And that became kind of Barbecue Lab 1.0.
So once you realize 1.0 is in your midst, to you and your wife, who's also a part of this team, I would say probably pretty crucial part from what I could see when we were doing sound check. Do you guys put together a set of testing standards to test products against to get results, or do you learn as you go?
Well, we started learning as we went, but the more that we've been doing it, we really have quite complex background things that we do before we do any review now. We use a program called Millinote, which is kind of like Evernote for creatives, and we have massive spreadsheets and data points on anything that we review. And we usually script out almost everything that we're ever going to talk about on a grill before we even shoot, so we know where we're going to go, because there's so many things to cover. Every video that we make could easily be 45 to 60 minutes long, just talking about one single cooker. And that's just not practical. I can't edit that long. I can't put together videos that are that engaging for 60 whole minutes. So we try to really get it down to the meat and potatoes of what it is that people want to know. And inevitably, people let us know in the comments, hey, you forgot to test this and you forgot to give this stat. And well, that's why we have a website too. And our website will cover a lot more things that we can put in print that we couldn't cover on the video side.
The biggest issue anyone is going to face doing what you do is proving that you are doing an unbiased review. As a consumer of products myself, I find it difficult to suss through the bullshit and find someone giving their honest take on something. So how do you achieve this level of trust with your audience?
That's been really important for us from the beginning, and to the point where for the first, I don't even know, 30 reviews that we did, I don't think we had any way to monetize or make money from any of the reviews that we shot. It was just saying, we want to help people in the barbecue space find the right grill for them, and let's see if this is something we can make a go of. But now the rules are pretty simple for us. I mean, when we do these giant head-to-heads, like we did a head-to-head of 8 different flat-top griddles, and of that there were 8 different brands and 8 different cookers. And the rules to all the brands are the same thing. You are welcome to send us a demo unit, a sample unit for us to test in this. You can't buy your way in. You can't tell us what to say. And at the end of it, we're going to do our best to be able to show the right kind of people for your grill why this is a good one for them. But there's no holds barred on this one. So that's really the way that it works, especially with that head-to-head content that we do. And those videos take forever to put together.
Like
but
how long?
They're always well received. I'd say that the griddle video took us 3.5 weeks.
Wow.
So you're talking about testing 8 different griddles with, I think we did something like 20 to 24 tests on each one, including thermometer tests and air temp tests and surface temperature tests and cooking tests, wind tests, you name it. But in all of that, it just takes an incredible amount of time to be able to put all that together. And we love to do it, but at the same time, it's always handy whenever you have a big family group around that you can feed. And that's what we've been doing is people always want to know, what happens to the food? Where's all the food go that you eat? Well, we don't eat it all. We have a lot of neighbors and friends around here that we feed, and we'll fill their freezers and we'll fill their fridges. And it's become something that's a lot of fun for us to be able to call up someone and say, hey, I happen to have 48 pancakes that are ready for the freezer. Who likes toaster pancakes? And we'll just drive around town and drop them off.
So my thought is, what are you doing with 8 or 10 griddles? I mean, I get the food, right? Every barbecue guy and gal is suffering from that at some point, especially if you're doing a halfway decent cook. I mean, that is a lot of real estate to take up in anybody's backyard, whether you got a third of an acre or 3 acres or whatever. So what do you do after the fact?
Yeah, we live on a third of an acre in a subdivision in the suburbs. But our HOA has thoughts about how many grills and griddles and things we have on our property.
I bet.
And they've been relatively nice about it. But we have multiple storage units and warehouses where we keep everything, because it just takes so much time just to assemble each unit. If you take 2 to 3 hours to assemble any one grill or griddle that comes in, and we'll review between 70 and 80 appliances per year. And you start doing the math on that, and you say, all right, at 3 hours, that's 240 hours. And you start looking and saying, well, that's going to be 5 to 6 weeks of time just assembling grills and griddles. Once I've built it, I don't want to build it again. So I'll pay a storage place to keep it. And that's definitely worth my time and money. So we try to keep any current version of units around so we have them for future comparisons.
Are you at a point in the life genesis of the channel where manufacturers are just contacting you and saying, hey, we want to send it? You're not out buying grills anymore, whether it be on Facebook Marketplace or brand new out of a big box store somewhere?
Yeah, we have people we can talk with at almost every major barbecue brand that I'm aware of, but there are still a few holdouts. I mean, there are still a few that they don't want to be compared, or they don't like the way that we do it or something, but there are still a couple that are crickets, and people let us know in the comments, like, how come you haven't covered blank? And I'm just going, well, they won't pick up the phone, and I mean, that's why.
Who's the biggest one that's holding out that shouldn't be holding out? They would benefit the most.
Probably RecTech. I can't get anybody to pick up the phone at RecTech.
Really?
They won't. Oh yeah. I don't know why.
That's bizarre. I thought they would have been the first ones to donate in. They seem to be, I wouldn't say they're on the cutting edge, but as far as promotion is concerned, I don't want to get into a left-hand turn here, but there's a very weird thing going on in Utah recently. I don't know if you've been keeping tabs on it or not, but as you start to really dig into it, you have Blackstone is in Utah, Traeger is in Utah, and RecTech moved from Georgia, wherever the hell they were, to Utah, and Gosney is in Utah. Slowly and secretly, maybe not so secretly now since I have my finger on the pulse here, there's a lot of big live fire brands that are basing in Utah. I don't know if you've seen the same thing, and I don't know if you have any thought on why that even might be.
Well, we were just up in Utah together about a month ago, right? And by being up there, it's gorgeous land, gorgeous area, love the mountains, love the scenery. I don't think I'm ready to see it in the winter yet. I'm still a little too Midwestern for that.
Same.
I'm not sure that I'm ready for the temperatures. But I've seen the same thing. I mean, I looked up there and I thought, man, there's so many brands concentrated in one area. Why? I'm not sure. I'd have to get into the nitty gritty and look at the tax implications and the reasons why they might want to move their companies up there. But you're right. There is an inordinate amount of them up there in Utah these days.
What happens when a company sends you a product and, in your estimation, it ends up shitting the bed? How do you handle it?
A lot of times I'll call them and say, look, guys, you don't want me to film this one. And since you don't want me to film this one, let's not do it, because let's just be honest. I don't have great things to say, so we're not going to do it. But it's one of those kind of things where I can also say, look, I can cover this, but I have some things that aren't great to say about it. And if you're okay with that, then I'll go ahead and publish it. But if you're not, let's just say I don't have it, and I don't need to put something out on it, because last thing I need to do is completely slam someone's product and then just, cause a massive division for them and a problem for them. At the same time, I want to make sure I serve our audience. I want to make sure that I tell them what I like and what I don't like. So that hasn't happened in the last probably 3 years, at least, where we haven't had to have that conversation. But I did make one brand quite upset one time by giving a very honest review that they did not enjoy. So
I assume your audience is savvy enough where they can see who is participating and who isn't participating and potentially draw their own conclusions. Have you ever been surprised when you've given the heads up to somebody and they're like, We're totally good with it. We just want you to give your straight 2 cents, and if you're going to flame us a little bit, then okay. No pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, not terribly surprised, but I think it really comes down to I want to make sure that when someone spends good, hard-earned money on a piece of barbecue gear, which, let's be honest, I mean, we need it to cook, but really it's a recreational activity. It's something that we enjoy doing. It's something that's a lot of fun. And if you're going to spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on something, it better be fun and useful for you. Because if it's not going to be fun and useful, they're not going to come back to the brand. They're not going to come back to the product. They're going to flame it to every friend that they know.
Yeah.
And it's going to become something that's going to be a loss for everyone. So I would rather them go into this and say, hey, you know what? I watched one of David's videos over at the Barbecue Lab, and I watched 8 griddles or 8 pizza ovens or 8 pellet grills. And the one that really connected and resonated with me was this one. So I want to try that out because I can see that that's really kind of got what I'm after and what I'm looking for. That's really one of our goals is I want people to find the right gear, and I want them to learn how to use it. And then I want them to be able to create community and gather a tribe around them around Food and Fire. That's really what we're about. So, I mean, really that first stage is finding the right gear. And if they can find the right gear, it's going to really help propel their journey on barbecue and outdoor cooking.
Anything you're working on right now that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, I mean, these wireless thermometers that have been out right now, these things are taking the world by storm. A couple of brand new releases that are coming out. We've been doing a lot of work with those. And so we've got a really big head-to-head coming together of all of the major wireless thermometers. And so the testing for that has been fast and furious, but that's been a lot of fun.
Well, maybe when that's ready for release, after you get it published to the YouTubes, we could have you back on and dig into a little bit more here on this show.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people with a lot of questions about those wireless probes. And I love that they're commenting on YouTube videos because it's even helping us know what it is that they want to see us test. And it's been fascinating data getting back on all these things. But as far as the channel goes, I mean, the things that we're working on right now are, like I said, we're in a third of an acre, which is nice, in a suburb. But with 70 to 80 reviews per year, it's a problem. We have a space problem. And so we'd love to find some room out in the country where we could put up a nice steel building and be able to kind of move things out there to be able to operate out in the wild, put out a nice new outdoor kitchen and film some stuff around that, have a few indoor studio sets, place to store things. So that's where we're heading. But finding land right now is problematic in our area. It's not exactly, I mean, it's the Midwest. I mean, you would think there's a cornfield and a soybean field in every corner of every place that you look. You'd think you could go find 10 or 20 acres pretty easy, but it has not been the easiest thing I've ever done.
Farmland is farmland, as they say.
It is.
Yeah. Dave Gafford is joining us here from the Barbecue Lab. You can follow him on the Instagrams, Barbecue Labs, and you can also subscribe over on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@thebarbecue-lab, and that's barbecue, BARBECUE, where 106,000 or so of you are already subscribed to him. Dave, really appreciate the time this evening, and let's circle back up and revisit the wireless thermometer head-to-head once you have it done.
Sounds great, Greg. Appreciate it.
You got it. Appreciate you. David Gafford right there from the Barbecue Lab, the website, thebarbecuelab.com. And as he said, if you're not getting the full information or you're not getting a full complement of information from the YouTube, they do have the website. And there's a lot more information over there as well to supplement. So look for that. David Gafford. I had the pleasure of meeting him in person when I was at the ThermoWorks event there a month or two ago out there in at American Fork, Utah. Look for Dave in a semi-recurring fashion if he's so inclined. A lot of great stuff on that website. Darren Carter is ready to go. Before we get to him, talk to you quickly about Big Papa Smokers. Are you ready to score that perfect 180 on chicken or ribs or pork or brisket? Big Papa Smokers has you covered for the best rubs, sauces, injections in the business for a limited time. Use promo code BBQ Central and get 10% off all Big Papa Smokers products. That's right, 10% off secret ingredients the championship teams swear by and win with weekend in and weekend out. Don't miss out on the incredible offer while it exists, whether you're aiming for a grand championship at your next barbecue contest or just looking to take that barbecue and grilling game to the next level of awesomeness. Remember, your food just got better with Big Papa. Offer valid through October 31st. Visit BigPapaSmokers.com. That's promo code BBQ Central for 10% off your order, your whole order at that. All right, Darren Carter from Carter's Barbecue to close. Stick around, I'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
And we welcome you back, and we thank David Gafford for joining us last segment over at the Barbecue Lab, thebarbecuelab.com, his website. This portion of the show being brought to you by JRE Tobacco, a family-run brand, a vertically integrated manufacturer known for its authentic Corojo tobacco, grown at the JRE Tobacco Farm in Honduras, the original Cuban seed of Corojo. Find a retailer near you by visiting jretobacco.com. Helping me close the show tonight, a fellow that made his debut on this show back in March. We learned about his food truck business here in the greater Cleveland area, and tonight we talk about his feature in a recent miniseries that highlights their journey. I'm happy to welcome back our pal, co-owner of Carter's Barbecue, Darren Carter, joining us here on the show. Darren, appreciate you joining me once more. Before we get into the docu-series, miniseries, whatever the hell you call it, we have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, which is this: have you tried a bottle of Doug Scheiding's Rogue Cookers rubs yet?
No.
Oh. 83%, by the way, saying no.
83%. That's probably about the same that has tried mine. So we're a good company.
I said, Doug, don't be disheartened. Think of it as more as almost 20% of people have at least bought one bottle of your 3 bottles of existing rub.
One bottle at a time.
That's
but
right.
He probably is. I'm about to have mine mass produced. So probably another month or two, I will be, putting it out there a lot more. Now I just do small batches, but we're going to go to a co-packer and put them out in the streets and see how the streets like them.
How are you doing it now? You're not doing it in your house, are you?
No, well, not in the house, but we're doing it in our central kitchen, our commissary kitchen.
Yeah.
Yep. Pack them up, bottle them up, shake them up. I do the labels, everything. So, and then we sell them either on the website or just, where we pop up or things like that. But
I don't think it would ever be, if you go to the co-packer, I don't think it's going to be as good. I mean, I know it's a pain in the ass and you're the one doing all the labor and everything else, and it makes more sense and everybody else does it that way. But I think you get it out of your hands, I think it ends up being different.
Well, it's a little bit, but thankfully for the people that we're working with, we got samples. I'm like, no, that's not it. Let's do this different or something. So we have something that is what I could tell very little difference in. So if they keep that, going, we'll be okay. The most important thing is the sauce, which we were doing last because it's going to be the most expensive, but it is what everybody kind of really wants, but it's the most expensive. So let's just get the rubs out the way, hopefully build up something and then get the sauce out there later. Now it's probably going to be a much more tedious process than the rubs were.
Is the rub called Carter's Crack?
That's a good one. I may do that for one of them. Yeah. One of them is called, it's, what am I? Oh, I just have a pork and chicken rub. I call it. It's probably going to be the all-purpose one. And then I have like a garlic. I can't say garlic lovers, but it's a garlic one. I love that. I put that on everything.
You were featured in a web series, miniseries type thing. Tell me about the general idea of the program, and we can build into, how you were approached and how you got into it.
GoDaddy, of course, many people know GoDaddy as a website company, but they do so much more for small businesses. But for the this is the 5th season. We are part of the 5th season. They've had this docu-series called Made in America. And basically they've gone around to different cities in America and highlighted small businesses to see their triumphs, their struggles, because as their tagline says, they believe that everybody could be made in America and they should be able to make their own way. So they kind of journey that with different businesses. The first 4 seasons, they did cities. So they've done Baltimore, they've done Phoenix, a couple other places. I don't know the other ones before that. They skipped my mind. But this year they did a state. So they did Ohio. So we were one of the main features, along with another one down in Portsmouth, Ohio. It's a vintage antique company, Gray Brush Vintage. We both had our own episodes, and then other businesses in Ohio, they were sprinkled throughout a couple of the episodes. So they did a whole state this time, and it was pretty good because we got a chance to see what a lot of other people were doing. And all of us have went through a program via GoDaddy, and this is kind of how we got into it. They showed us from a GoDaddy program, an empowered program, and this was just a program about building websites and finding out how to do that right. And they looked at folks, they saw folks, we got calls, and we just kept getting calls and just kept getting calls and getting calls, and finally, they told us what this would be about, and are you willing to do this? And we said, hell yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
When you get the offer, is it initially striking and romantic and exciting, or are you like, hey, this is great, but we really need to drill down into a lot of this stuff? Because this isn't 15 years ago where barbecue was getting that initial spotlight shown. You had barbecue pitmasters coming out. I think at one point it was even on CBS on a Memorial or a Labor Day on a Sunday during NASCAR or whatever. I mean, it was crazy, right? So fast forward to 15 years to where we are now. It's a different game. I would like to think it's a bit of a savvier game. I had done a interview with Rashid Phillips not too long ago, and we talked exclusively about TV shows and what's involved, what you should be aware of before the shooting starts. So what did you and your wife talk about as you're like, yeah, let's do it? What other conversations took place?
That was the year when this came to us. I was maybe 6 to 8 months into being full time.
Wow.
Where I quit my job that year. So when that came, I was like, let's go. I didn't care. I mean, it was the glorious romantic, you know what I mean? We didn't necessarily really think, we did go over the contract. We did do over those type of things. We didn't really see anything at the time that we knew would, pop out at us or anything. There was one thing that we, asked to change within the contract, and they did gracefully because, again, they believe in the small business. But yeah, we were like, let's go. Looking back, probably would do it again, just a little differently, probably. We have things with AI coming now. So your likeness can be forever and a day. I could be old and gray, but young Darren can be still doing something. So as a small business, and just as having our, what they call intellectual property, moving forward in different things that comes up, I would dove into that a lot more. Cause I really don't want to be old or dead and have a young guy selling something, and I'm not even around, or, being on a show and, barbecue pit masters, here's Darren Carter. And that, wait, what? You know what I mean? So, and that AI stuff really bothers me. So yeah. That would be done differently.
How happy were you with the finished product?
Dude, I am ecstatic about it. And you go into it nervous because we have no creative control. Only control we have is just none. We get up and we do what we do. But during the process, and seeing some of the ones before us, we loved how their stories came out. And the producer, Sophie, she was a wonderful woman who got a lot out of us as we were filming. The main thing she said was just trust me. That's kind of hard nowadays to be trusting people,
Right.
especially if you don't know them, whatever. But we've had a lot of conversations. It was like, well, okay. She wants to put, the company and our triumphs and our failures in the best light possible. And that's what she did, I believe. It came out to be, knowing all we shot, we think, oh man, that could have been, or that could have been, but that's not my creative process. You know what I mean? But the final product, I love it. And of course, I've been sharing it forever. Want everybody to see it and like it and comment and everything. But it's a brief, 4-part series. They're no longer than 14 minutes long each episode, and we're all of us are in episode 1. Episode 2 is ours alone. Episode 3 is Gray Brush, and then episode 4 is us and Gray Brush finishing up some processes, and then finishing out with ECDI here again, which all this came about through that, talking about their program. So I love it. I mean, I see it, and it's something to get emotional about with me, because I see it, I'm like, wow, that was us. We did this and we went through that. And then it was a year ago. So to see how far we've come since then, it's amazing. But I wouldn't change that, for the world. She did an excellent job, their whole staff, how they cut, what they pasted. We know some things that may have been boom, boom, but just still in general, it was a wonderful process, and it was a wonderful turnout.
Yeah.
At the end, the process was kind of aggravating sometimes, but you never know what it's going to be like when cameras are following you 24 hours a day.
What's the expectation at this point? Now that it's out, people are starting to see it more and more. What's the expectation from your side as far as what might happen or extra things that might come out of the woodwork that you weren't expecting?
As always, the more what do small businesses need? Exposure, right?
Yeah, right.
So that is the number one thing, and this isn't. It is localized, but yet it isn't. I mean, YouTube, this is going to be there forever. People can see this now and whenever. They were like, "Hey, I remember that when I saw that show, and they were in Cleveland. Let me look them up." And hopefully, again, we've gotten some increased traffic on the website. I won't know fully how it impacts, what's the name wise. Some people told me they saw it on there, but right now I'm pushing it so much. Hopefully I'm expecting people to see it.
Yeah. So,
hopefully it'll come with customers, with sales and everything. But what we really, really want exposure, being a new small business, the best exposure or the more good exposure that we can get. I'm not going to turn that down. So, and then that can turn into many different things. I can get a call for, hey, we're a company right here. We got about 1,000 people. Can you cater for us? Where's the contract?
Yeah.
So we hope, I don't know at what, I don't know how, I've even reached out to like last year's, it was 2 years ago for them, but through the season 4 featured, the featured businesses in Baltimore, and, to see how it did for them. And for all of them, it did pick up traffic, especially web traffic, and then from there, you got to cultivate that, to keep up on it and cultivate that. And hopefully from that increased traffic, even numbers wise, you can get some business out of that. So it can be very, very helpful that way. And I hope it does the same for us.
Darren Carter joining us here.
And plus, it got me on the show with you again. So
yeah, sure, a big deal. You can see the web traffic. I mean, you can probably feel the web traffic just flowing into the computer and the website.
Yes, sir.
From where can people go to watch it? Just YouTube?
Yeah, you could go to GoDaddy's, GoDaddy's channel, or you can go to any of my you can go to Carter's Barbecue 216, Instagram, and it's in my link tree. So if you go to my Carter's Barbecue 216 on IG, just hit that link tree, and then it's the first thing that pops up. And then that's the playlist, so you can just watch them all. You can see that the whole series in less than an hour.
Summer's almost
I know
over.
we got short expensive bands.
Summer's almost
Yeah.
over. Where are you going to be at in the next couple of weeks?
Oh, we got a pretty busy next couple of weeks. Tomorrow, well, whoever sees this, if they're in Cleveland tomorrow, we'll be, which is going to be Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yes, it's going to be Wednesday. We're going to be down at Walnut Wednesdays, which is downtown Cleveland. It's for the lunchtime, 11:30 to 1:30. Then we're going to be up at Beechwood Truck Park at 4 to close out the evening. And then Lakewood Truck Park on Thursday, and then Saturday we're at Willowick. They have a city festival that we're going to be at from like 12 to 6. But next week is going to be cool too, because we are one of the finalists to be and to take part of the Taste of Black Cleveland. That's going to be at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse Thursday the 22nd. So we'll be one of 28 vendors down there that people can, we're going to be in the food truck and caterer category, that people can sample our food and vote and see, who's the Black Taste of Cleveland. And Rock the Block, South Euclid. That'll be the 23rd and 24th, that Friday and Saturday. We'll be there for both days. So these next 2 weeks are going to be sleepless. How about that?
Yeah, certainly sounds like it. So hopefully I can get out to one of those events or a multitude of those events and independently judge how good your food is right there, because that's what you want, some shithead coming and telling you how good your food is. Darren Carter joins us here on this show, the website cartersbbq216.com, or you can follow him on the gram, cartersbbq216. Darren, appreciate the insight on the web series over there with GoDaddy, and good luck here over the next coming weeks, and we'll talk to you soon.
Always appreciate you, man. Thank you. And our condolences, our family's condolences to yours. Anything you need, man, just let me know.
Appreciate it. Darren Carter right there, quality human, doing the barbecue food truck thing right here in Cleveland. So if you're going to be around the greater Cleveland area here over the next couple of weeks, hit me up. I can get you his schedule and where he's going to be if you want to try out Carter's Barbecue. It's a not miss kind of a thing. I'm all caught up business-wise, so let's go ahead and see if we can't actually make it out on time. We'll be back to wrap the show right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Darren Carter for joining us last segment. CartersBBQ216.com, the website, Instagram, CartersBBQ216, CARTERS, CartersBBQ216, either way. A lot of good information there. And he's out doing this food truck thing in full swing here over the next couple of weeks, as he had just mentioned. So if you're going to be around here, like I had mentioned, why not try him out? See what he's all about. All right, let's go ahead and make tracks all the way back in the first hour. We had Meathead talking about brining, osmosis, diffusion, injections, all that. We missed the pickling portion. I meant to do the pickling. Robert Moss joined us after that, robertfmoss.com. He's got a new best new barbecue list coming out in Southern Living Magazine in the next couple of weeks, so we'll talk about that next month, see who leads the pack on that. Second hour, David Gafford from the Barbecue Lab joined us for the first time ever, and it won't be the last time, I can tell you that. He's got a new wireless thermometer head-to-head roundup coming up we'd like to dive into once that's all released and ready to go. And then closing it out, Darren Carter from Carter's Barbecue. Carter's Barbecue 216 on the Instagram or .com. All right, big show planned for you next week. It's week 3. Wes Wright is in. There'll be a quarterly guest, probably a Susie Bullock sighting, amongst others. So how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American Greg Rempe. Good night now, and shalom!
Hello, this is Jenny Bell from Clarington, Ohio, and I'm listening to Barbecue Central.